Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm hoping you're out there logging in. Give me a 5B5. Yes, if you can't see me, currently it is intentional, but what you should be seeing on your screen is one of the most wonderful memes that is etched on my brain forever, right? Stop identifying as the fake British. Hands up if you are English. Be proud to be English. Remember who you are. That was the end of WESTON Super Mare's seminar. 110 people in attendance. The videos are up if you want to go and watch them on YouTube and on Rumble. Slightly different ones on both sides because I had to do some shenanigans to get it loaded onto Rumble, believe it or not, only because of the size of the file. Stop identifying as the fake British, meaning the legal fiction of British. 109 people at the end of that said they were English only national identity. So again, what I'm going to do now is take my screen off so you can see my ugly mug and ask you again, can you now see and hear me? This may go off during this show because I've got Adobe and PDF stuff loaded in the background, which is going to be part of the show. And it doesn't like the camera and other bits and pieces. So I'm just letting you know that, right? Really importantly, there's some things I'm waiting for a bit of information to come through now, but we'll go into it. I've turned the heater on, believe it or not, here because it is fucking freezing. Went out yesterday, boiling hot in a t-shirt. Today, temperatures dropped. So you've got to be very careful. I'm looking at a few things there, but I've got a little list of things I want to go through. I've got to show you something. You're going to like this. Not a lot. You see that? The History and Analysis of the Common Law of England, Sir Matthew Howell. Now, again, this is a copy, so I'm pleased about that because it's done well. The History and Analysis of the Common Law of England, written by a learned hand, right? The people who wrote in the 1700s about our common law. Just have a look, see if you can see that on the screen. I need one of them cameras where I can put it on and show you on the screen, right? Library, not that bit. Howell, Matthew, Sir, 1609 to 1676, a history, and it goes in who it was. So the guy who wrote this was known as the expert, almost like Sir Edward Cook, or Coke, whatever you want to describe him as. And the chapters in this book are fantastic. And what I've been getting from these other books is they learnt the Constitution and history from these people. So then what I do is I get access to that so I can read it and get the mindset of the people, proper Englishmen, right? The contents, chapter 1, concerning the distribution of the laws of England into common law and statute law, and first concerning the statute law or acts of parliament. And it goes page 1, etc. Then it goes into concerning the lex non scripta, i.e. the common or municipal laws of this kingdom. Concerning the common law of England, its use and excellence, and the reason of its denomination, right? So it goes through and it tells you, so touching on the original of the common law of England, and that's at chapter 58. Anyone out there that tells you, listen, I'm not giving these people any, I don't want them anywhere near me, right? Free man of the land. If you haven't read this from history, if you haven't read the minds of our ancestors and legal professionals from the past, you are a psyop. a communist psyop, right? I'm not interested in you. All I want to do is help people, right? And again, I'm going to say this, and I want people to listen to what I'm saying. This is at page 60, and there's some references to this in there. But the reason I'm putting this out there and showing you, I've marked this book because it's a copy, it's not an original. If I ever get a original, you hang on a minute, I've got to take the camera off to do this. If I get the original, you'll be hearing in the background. Right? But I haven't got the original, so I've got this. But I do like working from copies if they're a good copy, because it means that I can mark it, do what I want, and then I can have an original on the shelf and just show people, right? But there's a couple of things I'm going to be showing you in a minute, right? Don't know. I'm going to look at something else for a second. Oh, well done. Well done. Spot on, geezer. You're going to have to probably tell me, hopefully he's listening. If he's not listening, he won't be able to hear me. But there's some things I've got to show people tonight. I'm going to drill down into a couple of things. But this is just a quick thing to say, anyone listening to this who believe, I want to say this in the kindest possible way. Normally I'm quite abrupt with people. Anyone who went to the Rise Above radio event in Dorset will know. I was on a panel, and one of the things that I was on the panel for was flat Earth, right? And then the panel got to me. They was having all these discussions, and the panel got to me, and he said, so Graham, what do you think of flat Earth? And I said, do you want my honest opinion with no... And he went, yeah. I said, what a load of fucking bollocks, right? And then I went into detail, because I'm an engineer, right? A telecommunications engineer, data communication engineer, etc., etc., etc. I'm not going to go into the detail of it, right? But I want people to understand this. The same type of people are talking about Tartaria, right? But by talking about flat Earth, people are not listening when you talk about Tartaria. Tartaria is really important, right? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You sidetrack the arguments by talking about flat Earth, and then in the same breath you're talking about Tartaria. Tartaria is real, flat Earth is a psyop, but people won't listen to you, right? It's very interesting about Tartaria, and it did exist, right? And why do I know that? Because this book, for someone who lived in the 1600s and wrote, and they published this posthumously in the early 1700s, he says this. And by the way, what he's saying is that civilizations can be erased, right? And he's basically given an example of Tartaria, right? It is an ancient kingdom, and in such cases, and he's talking about England, and in such cases, though the people and the government had continued the same aborigine, as they say the Chinese did, till the late incursion of the Tartars, without the mixture of other people or laws, yet it were an impossible thing to give any certain account of the original laws of such a people, unless we had a certain monument thereof, as the Jews had of theirs by the hand of Moses, and that upon the following accounts. And then he goes in and he talks about why England is so important and why we should... Basically, he's explaining in this book that you as a people can be erased if you don't build monuments to who you are, if you don't remember who you are, right? And so I'm not having a go at flat earthers, right? Forget my opinion at the minute. What I'm saying is you can distract on certain things. People can argue. I have got Virus Mania on here. I've read it, right? I'm not saying I fucking memorized it. I read it. I get what they're saying. I know Delors, the lady, the Irish lady, who's a wonderful person. not disputing anything she says. But there's certain things, if you drill down into it, you're distracting from the fact, right, that there is something. You're arguing what's known as a moot point in law. By distracting, one, you've got gain of function. If you start saying there's no virus, people will say, well, if there's no virus, there can be no gain of function, right? I just want people to understand you can complicate things too much, right? And by the way, people, sometimes I spend hours thinking about a problem in my mind, a legal problem. How can I frame this so it is simple? Lord Denning used algebra to put legal problems into algebra, solve the problem, and then bring it back out of algebra to explain it to people in law, right? So we took a complex problem, and in computer programming, we do the same thing, or a similar thing. We break a massive problem down into tiny little problems, and then you solve the tiny little problems, you put it all together, and you've solved the bigger problem, right? So all I'm doing, but the main thing that I want to tell you is I've got this book, The Analysis of the Law. It's got everything in here. The Common Law of England, the Common Law of England. What I'm trying to say is these people are going out and just doing mad stuff, right? Go, that one I think was 30 quid as a reprint, right? But at least you're getting the right information. Now, I've said that. I'm probably going to get a load of abuse now from flat earthers. All I'm trying to do is make sure people get what I'm talking about, right? That's all I'm saying to you. And there is something I'm going to speak to in a couple of minutes. Well done. So I've just got a message on there. On page 12, law hope in the case of acts, that's it. That's the one I'm looking for. Because some of this stuff, Andy, is going to go in the book when I explain things. And there's some other stuff I'm going to show you tonight. Open page 12. Where is page 12? Right, I'll show you this in a minute, right? We'll get back to that. What am I doing now? Let's go to my list. Right. Importantly, we had this vote at WESTON Super Mare, spelled WESTON, right? And no, I can't change I can't edit the titles that I've already put out, right? But Weston, I apologise to anyone in WESTON Super Mare who thinks you thick bastard, you can't even spell it, right? Listen, Weston is Weston, right? Although I've done it with a Western coat or a Western as in a westerly, I apologise. No, I've done it as a Western rather than Weston. Anyway, just to let you know. Is Kenny out there as well? Because I was going to have a quick chat with Kenny, online as well, because I was really grateful for all his assistance. But just to say, anyone who comes to our events and you're videoing, you will notice that I always put the cameras at the back. I never, ever actually video the audience face on, right? There are three major reasons for that. So just to make sure everyone's aware, we never release any of that footage if people's faces are in it. We live in a communist country controlled by Marxists, right? I want people to be comfortable when they come to our seminars and vote. So there could be a camera behind you, right? But it doesn't show who you are and what you are. And when you vote, you can vote comfortably. It's like having a vote at a polling booth. No one knows what you voted or who you are, right? I don't think I've ever said who did you vote for before. I wouldn't ask someone that. But just want to make sure everyone understands that. So if anyone's ever at our events in the future, never, you're very helpful. I've got not a problem with you, but never look like your video in the front of an audience, because we will not show that information, right? Not that anyone said anything, because they haven't. It's just I feel uncomfortable with that, and I feel that I am responsible for that audience. So I don't want anyone videoed from the front. Everyone got that? Good. right? That was handy. My mate that come with us called in sick. Don't want his boss spotting him. No, exactly that. Right? There's lots of reasons why you do not want people. I can tell you an event I went to in London, and a similar thing happened to me. Right? I shouldn't have been there. My manager told a bit of a porky, to another governor and said, no, he's at this job, blah, 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 blah. And they was tracking my vehicle. And they said, but his vehicle's there, right? And he went, well, this is where he is. But my governor, my personal governor, knew that I was there, right? And he was happy with it. He said, no, come on, fuck off over there. Go and call some ag, which I did. Anyway, cut a long story, that's it. None of that. The person who was doing that on his mobile phone, he comes along and helps us set up. He's not a cameraman. He's not. He's really helpful. I'm not having a go at him, but I am telling anyone else, if you don't ever do that, because it is a very awkward situation. I don't want people. I want them to come, listen, and interact. And if you're videoing them from the front, they won't interact with you. Right? Or if they do, there could be a number of reasons that it can cause problems. Don't forget, I got sacked for standing for the English Democrats, right? Who are technically a CivNat party, which is one of the reasons I left them. Right? They was too soft by half. But anyway, I am now getting into the next part of this. So it was a fantastic seminar. I am going back there. We're going to be in discussions about some other bits and pieces. Maplethorpe is our big event, which is the English Constitution Society and the English Constitution Party. We're hopefully going to add some other bits and pieces to it. But that one is in June, and there's accommodation. You can go there, take a few days. So I'm going to be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But our actual event is Saturday and Sunday. But we're going to be asking some questions, and the camera's going to be on the back. But I need a record of us asking the questions and the way I asked the questions to you, and the result of the audience to be recorded. Right? I could do it digitally, but there's no point in doing it. All right, that's it. I am now going to tell you, well, we're going to go to another element, right? So just to make sure everyone's aware of this, let's see if I can go through it. Right, I'm going to share my screen. Share the screen. There it is. Up on your screen now. All of these links are in the on Rumble in the description. Right. Now, do you all understand what this is? If you don't, I'll explain it. It's the 2011 census. For the first time ever, they put English only national identity in the census, right? So it's important that people understand that because they never did it before. They got fed up with people writing English, right? Ethnicity and national identity in England and Wales 2009. So ethnicity, this is a government census, right? It says we focus on the increasing ethnic diversity within England and Wales. Whilst the majority of the population gave their ethnic group as white in 2011 census, results from the past 20 years show a decrease, falling from 94% in 1991 to 86% in 2011. It's far worse than that now. London was found to be the most ethnically diverse area, while Wales was the least diverse, right? So in other words, Wales was and I'm going to get to this, Wales was the most white. What they're basically saying is London is almost being destroyed, right? So I'm going to go to the particular paragraph I need to show you, which is paragraph 7, right? So this is an official document. This is not, I'm not sure if I can bring that up anymore. The national identity in England and Wales, the 2011 census introduced a question on national identity for the first time. This was due to an increased interest in national consciousness and demand from. So, the government are telling you there is an increased interest in national consciousness, right? Rupert Lowe, restore Britain, restore England, restore Scotland, restore Wales, restore Northern Ireland, restore Cornwall. You need to understand that, right? We're telling you something. This. If you want to run a business, this is the ultimate marketing tool, right? Because you're finding out what your customer wants. Marketing is not advertising. Marketing is when you're finding out what is it that the people, what problem are you solving? What problem have the people got that you are solving that you are selling to them, right? So again, was due to increased national consciousness and demand from people to acknowledge their national identity. This is so crucially important. If anyone's got any contact with Rupert Lowe or his team, please send this video to them, right? Or send it to Bo, right? Or who I used to call Bew, right? So I'm a thick South Londoner, right? National identity is multi-dimensional, so the 2011 census respondents were allowed to tick more than one national identity. 91% of the population identified with at least one UK national identity: English, Welsh, Scottish, Northern Irish, and British. Separate identity. English identity, either on its own or combined with other identities, was the most common identity respondents chose to associate with. At 37.6 million people, 67%. Right? English as a sole identity, in other words, not associated with the British in any way whatsoever, not combined with other identities, was chosen by 32.4 million people, 57% of the population. British identity, either on its own or combined with other identities, was a common identity chosen by 16 million people, 29%. But 10.7 million people, 19%, associated themselves with British identity only, right? Welsh identity, either on its own or combined with other identities, was chosen by 2.4 million people, 4.3%, 2 million people, 3.7%, associated themselves with a Welsh only identity. That is a massive statement from the Welsh, right? A small percentage of people in England and Wales associate themselves with a Scottish or Northern Irish identity, 1%. This is why Rupert Lowe needs to understand that any campaign needs to be on a national, I don't want to say national front, on a national ethnicity basis, right? And 5.5 million. And anyone who says British, you've already been shown on the screen, is a minority. In a marketing situation as this, and I am going to show you how the government used this marketing information, right? People who haven't seen this before, I've covered this on a number of occasions, but I think I should cover it again, and I am, right? Geographic distribution for national identity. Think data marketing. So you're finding out where these people who believe they're English or Welsh, right, only, you're finding out and drilling down where do they live, right? Exactly. The locations where they live, right? Figure 4, national identity, England and Wales. England and Wales, so it gives it there. And it says England, and then it gives you 70, Welsh 1, blah, 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 right? But then it breaks it down into regions. The Northeast, 81%, 0 Welsh. British was 26%, all other 4, right? So they knew that the Northeast as a region, right? And don't forget, and I'm going to go on to telling you what about regions, right? That's at our third level. So there's a northeast. Yorkshire and the Humber already massively down, 76%. East Midlands, 75%. West Midlands, 73%. East of England, 75%. London, 44%. This is in 2011. We now know it's well below 36%, right? Southeast, 73. Southwest, 76%. There's lots of foreigners moving into the southwest, right? So I did this, and what I did was I showed people at the seminar the pearly kings and queens. I said that was my culture in London. That's part of my culture, not my full culture. It's been erased. It's gone. It's gone forever. Destroyed. I said, but if I was to say that 1 million Londoners are going to move into Somerset tomorrow, would it still be Somerset? And the answer is no, it wouldn't be. Your culture, your language, your accent would soon disappear. Somerset wouldn't be Somerset anymore. Devon wouldn't be Devon anymore. But my strong argument to all of these counties and shires around England is we as Londoners are asking for your help, right? To remove the region of London, to remove the regions within England and Wales. Wales is a current region of the European Union, and I'm going to get to showing you something that's really important, right? But there's the information, and it's on the screen. So I've shown all this information to you, right? What I'm going to do now is jump over to something else. This is really important that you understand this. I'm now going to share this with you. This is a government website yet again. In 2019, new asylum accommodation contracts awarded. And I've covered this many times, right? I used to work for Mears Group, right? The Home Office has awarded new asylum accommodation and support services contracts, AASC, following an open and fair procurement exercise. And it wasn't open and fair. I knew about this from the project manager that was going around before they even got awarded the contract and was quantity surveying, getting the QSs in. I was one of their surveyors, right? And we knew what it was for. I was like, what the fuck? Right? And at that time, we was covering off a number of properties in Dover and Folkestone. Right? And I'm talking about military barracks, right? The new Asylum Accommodation and Support Services Contract, AASC, which was designed following engagement with the local authorities. Your local authorities are part of this conspiracy. And I will explain to you in a minute why it's so important that people of Devon, Somerset, South West must stop the regionalisation, because you are going to be part of a Roman law European Union, and you have no rights whatsoever. Right? We need to go back to local governance. Potential providers for non-governmental organisation, NGOs, have been awarded today following an open and fair procurement exercise. New contracts offer a range of improvements with a particular focus on assisting individuals through the asylum system. They will ensure that vulnerable asylum seekers have access to the support they need. Let me see if I can bring that up any further. Come on. So you can see it without it going off the screen, right? Procurement exercise, right? Let's see if I can bring it up over there. And it's out your way. New contracts offer a range of improvements with a particular focus on assisting individuals, right? Support their need and set clear requirements on the standard and condition of accommodation. Under the new contracts, providers will be required to have proactive maintenance plans to make sure that they regularly inspect properties and report back to the Home Office on the findings of these inspections. When issues are identified, providers will be expected to resolve them within a set timescale. The Home Office formally awarded contracts to the following providers: Midlands and East of England, Serco; North East, Yorkshire and Humberside, Mears Group; North West, Serco; Northern Ireland, Mears Group; Scotland, Mears Group; South, Clear Springs, Ready Homes; Wales, Clear Springs, Ready Homes. These guys are already, Clear Springs is a multi-millionaire. He just happens to be Jewish. Migrant Help has also been awarded the contract for the Advice, Issue Reporting and Eligibility Assistance Services, AIRE, which will be a single integrated and national service for asylum seekers. The AIR service will provide advice and guidance to service users on the asylum process. Right? Bearing in mind, if ever any of you get in trouble with the law, you are highly likely not to get legal aid. Most of these people are criminal. They're criminals. They're illegally entering our country. Immigration Minister Caroline Noakes said the UK has a proud history of providing protection to those who need it, and these new contracts will make sure that asylum seekers are treated with dignity and respect in safe, secure and suitable accommodation while our veterans die on the streets, and our vulnerable and our elderly and people that we need to look after. They will deliver compassionate support for a new integrated service and make the asylum system more accessible and easier to navigate. We consulted extensively with local authorities and NGOs, right? There's the local authorities coming into it again to make sure that the contracts not only protect vulnerable asylum seekers, but also deliver value for money to the taxpayer. I don't think anyone would agree, right? But I'm telling you now, listen to this, because this is the bit that bites you. The contracts also require accommodation providers to develop and maintain close working relationships with local authorities, and include the need to consult and liaise with them on the location of properties in the area. The AASC contracts, which will replace the existing Compass contract because they went out of business through bad management, have an approximate value of £4 billion, your tax money, 4 billion, right? The backhanders that I see going about in Mears was disgusting. And just to make sure you're fully aware of this, I reported all of my findings to the Serious Fraud Office. I think that's the first time I've ever said that live, right? The system, they never investigated. They was in communication with me. The whole system is corrupt to the core, right? And I'm talking about serious backhanders. I'm talking about millions and millions. 4 billion, right, is 1,000 million. So 4,000 million, and certain people working for these companies were taking massive backhanders. And some of these companies were using, there's a word for it, gangers, right, which is a form of modern slavery, right, for 10 years. The new contracts will commence in September 2019, and the Home Office will continue to work closely with the new providers, Compass providers, blah, blah, blah. Share this page, right? And there's something else I'm going to go back and show. So I just said to you about for share this instead, right? I'm going back to this document, right, which again is government. And then people in the northeast of England, that one there, wonder why they've been hit the hardest. And Wales have been hit the hardest, right? And the reason is because this marketing document, for the first time only, they put English only, national identity on there. Some people were saying, woohoo. I was like, well, hang on. There's something seriously wrong here. They're not doing that to appease us. They're doing it for another reason. And that was, they then started to plan with the money, right? That time it was Compass. They ticked along. They knew what was going on. And they knew that there was going to be a flood of people coming into the country. They were preparing for it, right? Border Force was actually created by a Fabian minister, right? This is incremental of what they do to us. I'm showing you on the screen that they used this marketing material to locate, and when you drill down into this document, which I have done on many occasions, you can see some areas are like 98% English only national identity. Then you go and have a look at the hotels, you go and have a look at the social housing, you go and have a look at the bed and breakfast, the HMOs they call them, right? That's where they put these people. They targeted the highest English only national identity first. And those asylum seekers will then be given British passports. And then what you'll understand is that minority of British starts to rise, right? And then the English start to be erased. Remember what I said about Tartaria at the beginning of this show? That it's not bullshit. This has been done in history before. You are being warned by our ancestors that we need to, if anything, to build monuments to England, to Wales, to Scotland, to Northern Ireland, some of the bravest people I've ever met, right? Because they still stood up to the British, and they have British state agents amongst them now, working, grafting to take them out, right? This is all real research, people. I've spoke about this for years and years and years. We now have potentially someone listening to us, which is Restore Britain, right? Because Restore Britain means restore England, restore Wales, restore Scotland. But they must understand this market information. They have 32.4 million people that are literally chomping at the bit to vote for someone who says, I'm English, right? That's what you want. So I've shown you this information, and I'm doing this show to warn the people of Devon, the people of Somerset, the people of Dorset that are already being annihilated in some areas. Their communities, their towns are being destroyed, right, in front of their eyes. That's what happened to Tartaria. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Don't be distracted by these other things like flat earth, right? Because the same people talking about Tartaria, no one is listening to you because you're talking about flat earth. The same as when you start turning around saying there's no virus, let's not get into the technicalities of it. There is something called gain of function. There is a jab that killed millions and millions and millions of people and is potentially going straight to the woman's ovaries and the men's testes, and it is targeting us, the working class, mainly, all right? And certainly people with low IQ that trust the government. So that's that information. Are you all, let me just make sure you're clear on this, right? So the links to this are in the Rumble edit, right? I've spoken about this many times, right? So all I'm doing at the moment is just showing you that, and I'll go back to the next bit. Are you happy with what I've just told you, right? Do you understand it? Have I simplified it enough? And I'm not suggesting in any way that this audience is stupid. You are not, right? But I don't want to overcomplicate something, because I am bringing in business concepts of marketing, which is finding out information and then providing a solution. What they've done is marketed via the 2011 Census to find out and put, for the first time ever, English-only national identity, to move that information across with 4 billion and say, right, flood them areas with asylum seekers, right? Now, I want you to remember, again, I don't want to harp on about this too much, although I feel I need to, right? This was my culture in London. It's been nigh on White Tower. If people come along now and said, look at London, look at it, right? Look at that little blonde little girl with her pearlies on. Look at the pearly kings and queens, right? Look at us. We have been destroyed. What I'm saying to you, and I can go all through them. I need to get massive ones blown up, but on vinyl, right? So I can show people what I'm actually saying. This is current. The DD, you are the salt of the earth. Thank goodness for your knowledge and the law, calling these toxic traitors out. Taffy Pat, let me tell you something. I love the Welsh to bits. We all take the piss out of each other. That's why it should be. I'm telling you now, this plan needs to be taken down. Now, I've just gone through that with you, and I'm going to say something else to you now. I'm going to take you to something else, and I bet I haven't put it in the right link. No, I haven't. Right, so I'm going to take it over. I'm going to hope you can hear it. Bearing in mind, if this goes off, I'll be back straight away. Now, all of this information is in the description, right? And before I get into that, I'm now going to go back to my thing. I'm going to show you something. Now, the reason I particularly remember this, if Rupert Lowe ever listens to me, a working class geezer that's studied this, I don't think I'm thick, but I am just a normal, everyday person. There's nothing special about me, right? The British have tried to destroy me. In various different ways, right? And I've always carried on and carried on. They've stuck people into us. We found them, removed them, right? I want people to understand that a guy called Jimmy Goldsmith, who is one of my heroes, whether you like, you can go and investigate what you want about the geezer. He's Jewish, right? So fucking what, right? He put £100,000 in his pocket to make a documentary that spelled this out to you. The reason why it is important, because this talks about regionalisation, right? And how they are going to take away from you your own governance, impose upon you, which they already have, administrative law, which is another way of saying Roman law, and remove your constitution, your constitutional rights, and everything England ever stood for. England is being destroyed, right? And I'm going to share this with you, and just listen to what he says and look at the screen very carefully. Hopefully this comes up on your screen. Now, this guy who made this, Jimmy Goldsmith, put in £100,000 to make this documentary. He then paid for a CD-ROM disc to go through every door in the country, right? Or the four nations, I should say. The particular interesting to me, and it's just a coincidence, is Sir Patrick Moore is the narrator. This is crucial. My dad's name is Patrick Moore, right? I want you to listen.
If you're British, this film is about you, every one of you. Something is happening in Britain which increasingly intrudes into the way you live. Traditional customs, familiar and trusted patterns of a liberal, compassionate society, the British way of doing things, all are disappearing and being replaced by a frustrating avalanche of alien regulation and bureaucracy. This is happening not as a result of popular demand, but as a result of British membership of the European Union. The very character of our unique way of life is being destroyed, and there has been no public debate, consultation, or approval. The people appearing in this film are not politicians or civil servants. They don't seek your vote or your money. They only ask that for a few moments you watch and listen and then make up your own mind. Almost all you're about to hear has been hidden from you. Everything you're about to hear is the truth.
I'm going to pause it because I think you need to see, because it's obvious, you can see it.
Always order.
Right, watch Wales. You see Wales is one region, right? This is already successful. You see London is a region. It's already successful, right? Again, if I went back, you would see Scotland is one region. Northern Ireland is one region. It's regionalisation. England is then regionalised into, and this is them that's done it. And by the way, it was John Major and others that pushed this forward. Right? I'm just making sure you understand what I'm saying. So Scotland is a region. They took out the 7 constabularies, police constabularies. They've now got Scottish police service or whatever it is, right? Regional police service, right? It is a police state. Northern Ireland is the same, right?
For the last 34 years, British politicians have been hiding from you the fact that they've been handing over the governance of your country to Brussels. This film shows how close they are to completing that process. In 1972, the British people were told that they were joining something called the Common Market. They were assured by Prime Minister Edward Heath that this was just a trading arrangement and involved no loss of essential national sovereignty. In this, the British nation was seriously and deliberately deceived. Today, as a result of that 1972 arrangement, British national identity, a British government, and British independence are about to be sacrificed. Britain is to disappear within a European federal state, and the British people are to be governed from Brussels by unelected foreign officials. A succession of British politicians have continued that 1972 deceit and secretly stripped Britain of self-government.
I'm going to stop it there. Anyone who wants to watch the whole thing, right? And there's a particular part of this in the back, right? Maybe I should go to that, which is this part. But you need to watch the whole thing.
1976, and now lives in Cambridge. He has experienced firsthand a system which he considers ominously similar to the one being imposed upon us. If he is right, then the Britain you and I know truly is on the brink of extinction.
It is really puzzling to me that having just buried one monster, the Soviet Union, another remarkably similar one, the European Union, is being built. Exactly what is the European Union? Perhaps by examining the Soviet version, we can get the answer. The Soviet Union was governed by 15 unelected people who appointed each other and who were not accountable to anyone. The European Union is governed by 24 people who appoint each other, meet in secret, and are not accountable to anyone, and whom we cannot sack. One might say that the EU has an elected parliament. Well, the Soviet Union had a parliament of a sort too, the Supreme Soviet, which just rubber-stamped the Politburo decisions, pretty much like the European.
Well, to stop a second, to ad-lib slightly, we have now got Ofcom. That is the equivalent to Glavlit in the USSR. It controlled all communication.
Parliament does.
By the way, we was the only people that campaigned outside the Ofcom building, right? The English Constitution Party. Just think about that.
Speaking time in the chamber is limited within each group and often amounts to 1 minute per speaker. In the EU, there are hundreds of thousands of bureaucrats with their huge salaries, their staff, servants, bonuses and privileges, their lifelong immunity from prosecution, which is simply shuffled from one position to another, no matter what they do or fail to do. Is this not exactly like the Soviet regime? The Soviet Union was created by coercion and very often with a military occupation. The European Union is being created, admittedly not by armed force, but by coercion and economic bullying.
Just think about what's going on in Southern Ireland now, where they're sending the army in. Have you seen that out there? Let me take that pin off.
In order to continue to exist, the Soviet Union spread itself further and further. The moment it stopped spreading, it started collapsing. And I suspect the same is true of the European Union. We were told that the purpose of the Soviet Union was to create a new historic entity, the Soviet people, and that we must forget our nationalities, our ethnic traditions and customs. The same seems to be true of the European Union. They don't want you to be British or French. They want you all.
And particularly English. It's a Roman law jurisdiction. Wales is a Roman law jurisdiction. Northern Ireland is a Roman law jurisdiction. Scotland is England is a common law jurisdiction. Wales is a common law jurisdiction. Northern Ireland is a common law jurisdiction. Scotland is a Roman law jurisdiction, right? In order to destroy England as the number one common law jurisdiction in the world, they need to regionalize it, which means Roman lawize it, right? Get rid of all the local governance, which is why it's so important that local people understand what's going on. They've already done it to London.
All to be a new historic entity, European, to suppress all your national feelings and live as a multinational community. After 73 years, the same system in the Soviet Union resulted in more ethnic conflict than anywhere in the world. In the Soviet Union, one of the grand purposes was the destruction of the nation state. And that's exactly what we observe in Europe today. Brussels intends to absorb nation states so that they should cease to exist. Corruption was built into the Soviet system from top down, and so it is in the EU. The same endemic corruption activity that we saw in the old Soviet Union has flourished in the EU. Those who oppose or expose it are silenced or punished. Nothing changes. In the Soviet Union, we had a gulag. I think we have a gulag in the European Union also, an intellectual gulag known as political correctness. When anyone tries to speak their mind on questions of race or gender, or if their views differ from those approved, they will be ostracized. This is the beginning of the gulag, the beginning of your loss of freedom. In the Soviet Union, they told us we needed a federal state to avoid war. In the European Union, they are telling you exactly the same thing. In short, the same ideology underpins both systems. The EU is an old Soviet model presented in Western guise. But again, like the Soviet Union, the European Union has within itself the seeds of its own demise. Unfortunately, when it collapses, and it will leave immense destruction behind, and we will be left with huge economic and ethnic problems. The old Soviet system was incapable of reform, so is the European Union. But there is an alternative to being ruled by those 24 self-appointed officials in Brussels. It is called independence. You don't have to accept what they have planned for you. After all, you have never been asked if you wanted to join. I have lived in your future, and it didn't work.
So, hopefully you all saw that. Understand what they've done to Londoners, right? And again, that is almost a perfect picture of my future wife. Right? Understand that what he's just told you, and they wonder why people like me are angry and frustrated, right? And yet they and these people, particularly groups with money won't listen to me. The positive about Rupert Lowe is he appears to be listening. Right? That was my culture. It's gone. Right? The person who assisted us to push this, right, was Jimmy Goldsmith, a Jew, right, who put his, and I'm talking about 100 grand then was a lot of money, right? Talks cheap, money buys houses. And that money he put into a documentary and delivered it through every home in the country. The response by the ruling class, parasites, whatever you want to describe them as, was to put Nigel Farage as controlled opposition into the next element of this, which was UKIP. That was the referendum party. Then there was UKIP. Nigel Farage could have come out of the European Union 3 times. Right? The biggest one was the independence referendum for Scotland. And when he went up there and persuaded them to stay in the British Union, which would have, if they'd been out, we would have all been out, right? Scotland could have said, oh, we want to go back into the European Union. We don't want to be part of the British. And then England, Wales and Northern Ireland would have been common law jurisdictions without having the subversion of a Roman law jurisdiction involved with it. It's dangerous. Right? So people like Rupert Lowe and the people advising him, I had to move out of London. I wasn't safe. There's certain parts of London I used to frequent 30 years ago, 40 years ago. If I walk through there now, after what I've said about Islam, some parts even Jewish, right? Not necessarily in the Jewish element, but I could have been accosted by what they have as a police force. But certainly some parts of East London and South London, I would probably get stabbed to death. Pearly King of Peckham, right? 20 minutes away from where I used to live. Right? I'm showing you again so you understand. Remember what I said originally about Tartaria? It went and it was completely erased. Can you see what they've been doing, the communists, in America and in this country? Do you remember when, I think it was in Bristol, where they tore down that statue and they lobbed it into the harbour and none of them went to prison? They even got paid compensation because they got arrested, right? That's tearing down the monuments that our friend who wrote that book that I showed at the beginning was talking about. So they know how to destroy everyone, right? The history analysis of the common law of England, Sir Matthew Howell. This is an attack on the English. Right? I want everyone to understand that. Dad and son. Now, for people who don't understand this, what I'm trying to say to you is, if us Londoners was all to move out and move to Somerset, where you've got, say, I don't know, 800,000 people, right? And let's say 2, 3, 4 million of us moved into Somerset and Devon. Would it be Somerset and Devon anymore? What we're asking all around the country, and there are other places that are in trouble, Bradford, Leeds, the Midlands, Manchester, right? People have got to come together to understand what's going on. And it is a communist, Marxist thing, right? So I've heard reference, and I can't say too much but there is a particular person that's sitting on a council, And Restore Britain put out a thing and said, stop calling these people indoctrinated, stop calling them Marxist. The Greens, and again, so I'm safe, what I don't want to do, because we're going to stand against this geezer. I'm going to try and show you something. Hopefully it's going to come up on this screen. There it is, right? I'm not going to say who this person is, so I've got to be very careful while I read this out. Representing the council, he has been elected to this position multiple times, including in, can I say that safely, 2019. And he then did it again and again, right? Regarding his political, this is an official statement from him, right? Regarding his political ideology, academic and political focus, the person's name is a known author and academic, often associated with eco-socialist viewpoints. Marxist perspectives. In an interview, he discussed how Marxism informs his analysis of ecological problems, referencing the Frankfurt School. He has written on Marxist topics, and in particular on what's known as eco-socialism, a political ideology that combines Marxism with ecology. Right, so this is not me having a go at, by the way, I've even got his telephone number there. He's references school, right? So one of the things that you don't realise, there's people out there that are all part of our team, that are on that council and feeding back information to me, right, about who these people are, because you need to find them and find out who they are, right? There is something a bit funny about that as well, which when I say funny, I mean funny, ha ha, right? So while he has a strong academic and political background in Marxist and so-called socialist thought, his official profile focuses on his council duties. So they'll blow up his council duties. This is what he does. This is what he does. And they don't talk about the political ideology of Marxism in the background, right? That is a wholly dangerous situation from these people. And you have to understand the enemy that you are dealing with, right? I'm not just saying that. I'm sure it's here. I'm going to Apple, my sister. Sorry. This is funny. Right, hang on. Let me have a look. No, it was that one, wasn't it? So that's the first element I want to just to say to you. Let me. Where was that? Page 12. There's some other bits and pieces we want to show you. You all happy? I've gone slightly over an hour, but I'm going to carry on. Can you all hear and see me? And do you understand what I've just said to you? Right. So I'm not having a pop at Restore Britain. I believe Restore Britain is Restore England, is Restore Scotland, and remove it from being a region. I think the only real way of doing it now, because of the infiltration, is complete independence for each nation, and that includes Northern Ireland, right? Because I know some really good people in Northern Ireland, very good people, that understand it. Right, Graham, you need to watch and play Mark Warren on Englishman, and we were never asked. You will cry, mate. I think I've done it. I think I've had that on the show a few times. But just making sure everyone understands this. I think that was the next bit I needed to go on. So I've just made notes to push me through this. Right. The biggest issue, I think the referendum was a load of bollocks. I believe it was to destroy everything that Thatcher had got stopped them doing, because they needed to remove that before they took you back in, right? And what I've seen from elections, it is highly crooked, right? But one of the things I want you to know, and why I'm highly suspicious of anyone in the legal profession, solicitors, barristers, especially the black belt barrister, who's currently giving out information or creating some sort of template. If you get arrested by the police, you can't use the templates when you get arrested by the police, right? You just shut the fuck up, right? Don't say anything, no comment, right? And bearing in mind, the black belt barrister, he counsels Restore Britain. He's got a Chinese wife, went out to China, made a video on YouTube, bigging up digital ID, right? I just don't get it. And I'm worried that the only thing they're looking at are people who have got, when I talk about indoctrination, I'm talking about the people who have been through a communist, Marxist, slow march through the institutions, takeover of the university and legal system, and it has progressed and progressed and progressed and progressed, right? And then people it's erased. Our constitution is erased from their memory and law. But Abolish versus Repeal, why is it that David Cameron, when he initiated that, didn't put the question in the referendum, do you want us to abolish or repeal the European Communities Act of 1972? Now, if you abolish mean make void, because it was ultra vires. It went against the English Bill of Rights and the Supremacy Clause, right? It was known to be treason at the time. I can go into more detail, but I don't want to complicate this, right? Abolish means that it was never law. I think they call it ab obitio or some weird maxim in Latin. And it means it's never been void. So it's never been law. But you can never have bad law in England, right? So what that actually means, and this is common law, part of the common law, if you abolish something, any stare decisis or common law judgments for judges, Supreme Court, High Court, House of Lords, anything in the favour of the European Communities Act of 1972, or anything that was done under its authority, that act, everything's abolished with it. You've literally got a clean slate, right? Gone. And judges can't argue with that. If you repeal, which is what they've done, they left loads and loads of it in place, right? Ready for us to be taken back in. They repealed certain elements of it when they should have took the whole lot out. The reason why I think that Nigel Farage, because he's not thick, right, went along with the repeal. And do you remember all them silly arguments we had about, and then we had the Article 50 case going into court and all that. We always found ways of getting back and trying to fight them, right? So repeal means that it's not law after the repeal, but anything before it, and the stare decisis and any of its authority was law before, right? Whereas abolish, make void means it's gone, right? It's never law, it's bad law, it's repugnant, it was designed by communists to destroy England, it cannot be good law, it's gone, abolished, right? That is the only way of destroying regionalisation in one hit, right? And by the way, we would then make sure and bring back Middlesex, right? Again, think of Tartaria. Where's Middlesex? It's gone. They took it off the map, right? And then someone else has asked me from the seminar, can you drill down? And I'll probably have to do this in another video, but I'm going to cover it off with a bit more detail. Between what is the difference between a convention in law, a convention parliament, versus an ordinary parliament. A convention parliament that happened for, I'm not forgetting how many days, it was 14 days or 18 days, it might have been 17 days. A convention parliament is when the king didn't call the parliament, right? The people and the lords have called the parliament, because you've got a problem with a monarchy. So the law that it makes is sacrosanct. It's the highest form of law, right? As a convention parliament, because it is generally solving a problem so serious that the nation has come together to discuss the issue on its own without a monarchy. But in terms of, and this is where I need to share something with you, but I'm not sure if this is going to take out the video if I do it, right? I need to show you something else. Parliament is not sovereign, right? So I'm hoping to find this on page 12, wherever page 12 was. Page 9, page 11, page 12, right? I'll bring this up on the screen, right? And this was the office of the Lord Chancellor, right? This is a House of Lords committee, and I want you to listen carefully to what I'm saying here, right? Because all of this is going to be in my book, explaining why Parliament is not sovereign. I will show you all the references going through history to say that it is not sovereign, and then I'm going to show you something else, right? So while I'm here, I'm going to show you that. Hopefully the screen might go off. WhatsApp, right? So I'll pull that on the screen, pull that down. This is the office of the Lord Chancellor, right? So I'm going to read this to you and then I'm going to show you. There's a number of these pages, right? But in many countries, the principles underlying the rule of law are provided by a written constitution. In the UK, domestic statutes such as the English Bill of Rights and the Scottish Claim of Right of 1689 and international obligations such as the European Convention on Human Rights play a part. But the roots of the rule of law lie in common law principles. Lord Falconer told the committee during an earlier inquiry that there are certain constitutional principles which, if Parliament sought to offend, would be contrary to the rule of law as well. To take an extreme example will simply demonstrate the point. If Parliament sought to abolish all elections, that would be so contrary to our constitutional principles that would seem to me to be contrary to the rule of law. This has now been recognised in case law at the highest level in AXA General Insurance versus Lord Advocate 2011, and this is Scottish law. The Right Honourable Lord Hope of Craighead, then Deputy President of the Supreme Court, said in a powerful statement that the rule of law requires that judges must retain the power to insist that legislation of that extreme kind is not law, which the courts will recognise. So, in effect, they will say it is null and void. Why am I showing you this now? Because I'm going to show you something else. And by the way, it was also the Lord Advocate and another case, which was Mackenzie versus the Crown in 1953. And this is from memory. I haven't got it in front of me. In 1953, where passages of A.V. Dicey, his second book, and his commentary on the Union, where he said, if, and this was read out to the Lord Advocate, if there are phrases such as forever, in perpetuity, in all time to come, within a constitutional law, it can never be repealed or abolished by any parliament, right? Paraphrasing. And the Lord Advocate agreed, right? So I just want everyone to understand what I'm telling you. So they agreed, in effect, that the English Bill of Rights, which says forever 3 times and in this kingdom for all time to come once, right? So 4 references to forever, right? You cannot remove that. They are inalienable rights and, importantly, about the Constitution. So I'm going to come off of that because I've just shown you it. I'm trying to put this and drill down but I'm going to show you, and really and truthfully, I need to show you the metric martyrs case and bring it on the screen. So if you want me to drill down deeply into this, I will, but I am going to do it in the book. Right? And then I'm going to show you all of the references. So there'll be a whole chapter in the book, which would be the equivalent of 2, 3, 4 hour course. And it will show you all the links, all the references, everything you need, even to the reference to Lions Under the Throne, a book written by an appeal court judge recently called Sir Stephen Sedley, who, by the way, admitted to being a communist, and then changed his mind when the tanks rolled into Czechoslovakia. And he said in that book, Parliament is not sovereign, right? The Constitution is sovereign. There is a separation of powers. That is the sovereignty. That is our Constitution. And we, as individuals, are part of that sovereignty. If you don't vote, right, even though you've got bad people at the moment voting for Restore Britain, if they are candidates that understand the Constitution and they represent the constituents, the members of Parliament are there to air your grievances, right, to the Crown. 1, the government, and 2, the Crown personally, right? But it's important that they understand, otherwise you're going to be in the same mire, right? So again, I'm going to show you something else. Don't forget, sharing is caring, right? Share this video. Secondly, really importantly, get Rumble out there, because we need people on Rumble. You need to subscribe to the channel, right? Rumble is the only platform I know that's got a jury that says yes or no to strikes. You get 12 content providers, and it has to be unanimous, and then you have an appeal, right? It's a Commodore platform. What more could you want, right? That's why they're struggling to take it down, right? So there's now what I'm going to try and do is show you this other document. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to do this or not, but I'm going to try and dump this over the other side. It might be too much for it, right? So what I'm going to do is bring this in. Hopefully there's no naked women popping up on my let me have a look. Let me put this up there. WhatsApp. No. Yeah, entire screen window. I won't do a window, I'll do this. And then I'm gonna hit that one. Really what I want to do is show you. No, I need to show you that one. Screen 2. I decide I'm not used to doing this, so which you already know. So you're going to see Sancon there. I'm then going to go to that. Hopefully you can see this on the screen. Now I'm completely blind to what's going on here, right? This is what we call Appendix A. If you go and look on YouTube, there was a guy that done an AI lawyer video on this and said they're completely right. But and he was shocked at the detail this went into, and that no one has been commenting on it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that out of the way, show it on your screen, and I'm going to show you things here, right? So the Bill of Rights, preamble and full title, an act declaring the rights and liberties of the subject and settling the succession of the Crown. The heads of declaration and law to commons recited, whereas the late King James II, by assistance of diverse evil counsellors, judges, and ministers employed by him, because the Crown servants, did endeavour to subvert and extirpate the Protestant religion and the laws and liberties of the kingdom. Right, so I've put a comment in there in yellow. For judges to allow the modification or repeal of these two sections, they follow in some of their professional ancestors' footsteps. This acquiescence led to civil war. It was a good fortune and character integrity of Lord John Somers and others we regained, and particularly Justice Holt, the dignity of England for her subjects. Right, so I'm going to show you now what I was talking about at the seminar, which is chapter 2 in its entirety. So chapter 2 and chapter 3 in its entirety. Chapter 2 has been top and tailed. Chapter 3 has been completely removed, right? Unlawfully. Right, so 2, and to be further declared and enacted by the authority as aforesaid, that from and after this present session of Parliament, no dispensation by non-obstante or to any statute or any part thereof shall be allowed, but that the same shall be held void and of no effect, except a dispensation to be allowed of in such statute, and except in such cases as shall be specifically provided for by one or more bill or bills to be passed during this present session of Parliament. Right? So what they're saying is, speak up now if you don't like anything in the Bill of Rights, because once we shut down this Parliament, right, that's it. It's law forever, because it said forever 3 times, blah, blah, blah. Right? No change in it. Chapter 3, and this is really important, all right? So maybe I should do this in the right way, and we'll go back up to it, right? So what did they do to Chapter 2's paragraph that was unlawful and illegal, right? Ultra vires. What you see on red in the screen, right, is exactly what they took out, right? And they took out the other bit in red, and they did it cryptically so no one could see it, right? But they left no dispensation by non-obstante of or any statute or any part thereof shall be allowed, but that the same shall be held void and of no effect, except a dispensation be allowed of in such statute, right? But they took out the part that said that dispensation can only be done in the Convention Parliament. And they took out the top part. Why did they do that? Because they was making themselves sovereign. They were never sovereign. Parliament was never sovereign. The Glorious Revolution limited the king and limited Parliament. And it gave power, not unfettered power, but power to judges, right? This law was unlawfully removed by fraud and deceit, removed by the British Parliament without the knowledge of the people. The removal of the parts in red completely and unlawfully changed the meaning of Section 2 to the detriment of the subjects of England. The English Bill of Rights is your heir right. You are the beneficiaries of inalienable rights. Your grandchildren and grandchildren's grandchildren are the beneficiaries. The Bill of Rights was a formal coming together of the common law and equity law to create a trust. The beneficiaries are you, English, Scottish, Welsh, and Northern Irish. The benefits are the rights contained within the Declaration of Rights, 27 heads of terms, and the 13 articles, right? And I'm going to show you a bit more in a couple of seconds. The most important thing that you need to remember is the elements of a trust document are there and has been approved by a convention parliament, and that the king swore an oath to say that he agrees with this, right? And it was only that reason why with our current king is in position. So from a point of view of a trust, you have trustees, 3 trustees: the monarch, the judiciary, and the Houses of Parliament. The benefit are your inalienable rights, and the beneficiaries are you, right? It's not difficult. It's easy to understand, right? What they then did, that happened in 1948, which I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes. But Chapter 3, I'm going to read it out to you, provided that no charter or grant or pardon granted before the 3 and 20th day of October in the year of our Lord 1689 shall be anyways impeached or invalidated by this act. But the same shall be and remain of the same force and in effect in law, and no other than this act had never been made. Right, so it protected the Magna Carta, it protected habeas corpus, it protected all of these previous charters, Charter of the Forest, Charter of the Liberties. They acknowledged the English common law and our legal system and our Anglo-Saxon laws, because that was part of the Coronation Oath Act. So I want you to see how they did it. It's on the screen currently. In 1948, 3 years after the Second World War, where they mowed the grass and slaughtered us in a war, they very cryptically, Statute Law Revision Act 1948, Chapter 62, this document was massive. There was a tiny little bits in there, right? And it says William and Mary, Section 21, blah, 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 a couple of other little bits in there. And it says William and Mary, Section 2, Bill of Rights. This was hidden, right? So John Law said, if you touch the Constitution, you must put it on the face of the bill. And they hid it, they buried it in legislation. The Bill of Rights, in part, namely, and then this is how cryptic it was. Now, you look at the screen and tell me that that's not cryptic. In part, namely, in Section 2, the words to, and then speech marks, of Parliament, and the words from, and, except in, and to the end of the section. How are you supposed to know, as people and parliamentarians, supposed to know that they've done that? They've slipped it in, passed it as an act, and said, there you go, don't tell anyone, right? Except people like me, actually it was me that found this, right? By doing lots of research and saying this isn't right. Where did they change this? And then I found it, right? Now, the next part is this provision of the Bill of Rights protected all English laws and charters prior to 1688 and going forward, right? Now, in red was that, remember what I said that protected the Magna Carta. And again, these idiots out there, the free man of the land, the people who've done no real research, no real study, haven't sat in a cell for fucking over 3 years reading fucking law books and only reading law books, saying, how can these people do this to me, right? Instead of turning against the people, I decided I wanted to know everything about our Constitution I possibly could. And I'm still in love with our Constitution. I'm still in love with England. I'm still in love with the people of England, right? I will never surrender my country. But there it is in red. And then it says UK Public General Act 1867. Page 59, page 74, right? And I'm showing you it on the screen, the image, right? Prior shall this act affect any principle or rule of law or equity or established jurisdiction. And then it says blah, 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 franchise, liberty, customs and privilege, right? And then it says, and then it tells you what they're doing. An act declaring the rights and liberties of the subject, settling secession of the crown, blah, blah, namely section 3. And it goes in there. It is so cryptic that people would not know that that was in there, removing the law and your protection. So this is where I say this is the law, right? We should recognise a hierarchy of acts of Parliament as if it were ordinary statutes and constitutional statutes, Sir John Law's metric martyr case and the links there, right? B, the special status of constitutional statutes. Hang on a minute. I'm hoping you can still see this on the screen because I'm blind. The special status of constitutional statutes follows the special status of constitutional rights. Did you understand what I just said then? This is law. Examples are the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, the Act of Union, the Reform Act, which distributed and enlarged the franchise. The the Human Rights Act, the Scotland Act 1988, and the Government of Wales Act 1990. Right, so these elements are constitutionally destroying the United Kingdom. Right. The ECA clearly belongs in this family, and it's incorporating the whole corpus substantive community rights and obligations. Blah 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 blah. And they're having such effects, but it was never a convention parliament that created that, right? Now swap out the word ECA with the English Bill of Rights and examine convention versus ordinary parliament, right? So you extrapolate a constitutional law that says forever, and many references to that, right? And it comes from a convention parliament that clearly stated once this is enacted, it can never be removed ever, right? Versus an ordinary parliament. Paragraph 63: ordinary statutes may be implied be repealed. Constitutional statutes may not, right? And this is where it says it. Ordinary statutes may be impliedly repealed. Constitutional statutes may not. For the repeal of a constitutional act or the abrogation of a fundamental right to be effected by statute, the court would apply this test. Is it shown that the legislator's actual are not imputed, constructive, or presumed intention was to effect the repeal or abrogation? I think the test could only be met by express words in the latter statute, or by words so specific that the inference of an actual determination to effect the result contended for was irresistible. The ordinary rule of implied repeal does not satisfy this test. Accordingly, it has no application to constitutional statutes. I should add that in my judgment, general words could not be supplemented so as to effect a repeal or significant amendment to a constitutional statute. By reference to what was said in Parliament by the Minister promoting the bill pursuant to Pepper versus Hart 1993, AC 593, a constitutional statute can only be repealed or amended in a way which significantly affects its provisions touching fundamental rights or otherwise the relationship between citizen and state. Remember when I said constitution governs the state and the citizen and the relationship? By unambiguous words on the face of the latter statute, right? Remember what I said to everyone, right? I was at the conference and I said, this bit is really important, right? It follows that a General Act, UK Public General Act 1867, section 59, cannot repeal the Bill of Rights of 1688 provisions. The incorporeal rights at issue, this is a really special legal term, right? I've written this, right? The incorporeal rights at issue, which encompass both constitutional and fundamental rights, constitute an integral aspect of legal fabric, safeguarding individual liberties. These rights, grounded in principle of justice, equity, and the rule of law, bestow upon individuals a shield against arbitrary government, actions that may encroach upon their core rights and freedoms. They are enshrined within the foundational principles of our legal framework, serving as a bedrock upon which the legitimacy of government authority and the protection of individual dignity converge. And in my initials, that is what I wrote. In the words of Lord John Somers, the chief architect and drafter of the Declaration of Rights, the Bill of Rights, the Act of Settlement, and Acts of Union of 1706 1707, to name a few. He was also Solicitor General, Lord Keeper of the Great Seal of England, Lord Chancellor, and Lord President of the Council, and other positions of state. He was no mug, right? Most people have never heard his name. When you think of people like George Washington, etc. The security of an Englishman's lives, or the trust, power, and duty of the grand juries of England. John Somers. Remember, that the British removed grand juries in 1929, I think it was, or might be 1933, but they would never allowed to remove grand juries. It's how we hold them to account. But juries are bound by their oaths to present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, to the best of their own, not the judge's knowledge. This is Lord John Summers. The principal ends of all civil government and of humane society were the security of men's lives, liberties and properties, mutual assistance and help each other unto other, and provision for their common benefit and advantage. And where the fundamental laws and constitution of any government have been wisely adapted unto those ends, such countries and kingdoms have increased in virtue, prowess, wealth, and happiness. Whilst others, through the want of such excellent constitutions, or neglect of preserving them, have been a prey to the pride, lust, and cruelty of the most potent, and the people have had no assurance of estates, liberties, or lives, but from their grace and pleasure. They have been many times forced to welter in such others' blood, in their master's quarrel for dominion, and at best they have served like beasts of burden, and by continual base subserviency to their master's vices have all lost all sense of true religion, virtue, and manhood. Our ancestors have been famous in their generations for wisdom, piety, and courage, in forming and preserving a body of laws to secure themselves and their posterities from slavery and oppression, and to maintain their native freedoms, to be subject only to the laws made by their consent in their general assemblies, and to be put in execution chiefly by themselves, their officers and assistants, to be guarded and defended from all violence and force by their own arms, kept in their own hands, and used at their own charge under their prince's conduct, entrusting nevertheless an ample power to their kings and to other magistrates, that they may do all the good and enjoy all the happiness that the largest soul of man can honestly wish, and carefully providing for such means of correcting and punishing their ministers and counsellors if they transgressed the laws, that they might not dare to abuse or to oppress the people, or design against their freedom or welfare. Lord John Summers. So I'm hoping that clarified some issues. Again, we've gone through this information on many occasions. I'm actually going to go there and hope, let me hope that, stop sharing. Did you all see and hear that? And hopefully I have tried to, I'm going to cover this off much more. I've used some of the information in court cases. They're terrified of us. No one has ever shown this information and put it together in this way. Someone like even Liam Price, who was a fantastic barrister, you can read what he said on everyright.org. Even Liam Price didn't know about this, and he was one of the constitutional experts 10, 30 years ago. Do you all understand exactly what I've just told you? But we need to get this information out to the people. It is why constitutional seminars are so important. We go to the people. People flooding into London is the equivalent of dragging the Christians into the arenas in Rome, right? I travel the country and we ask for donations, all of that money goes straight back into what we're doing, right? I'm not interested in being a rich man. I don't drive a Rolls Royce. I certainly don't stick cocaine up my fucking nose, right? Currently, I'm not even drinking. But you're struggling to get out there and tell people. We need as many people as possible saying, Graham, we want you to do a seminar. We want you to explain this to people. And one way of doing it is to show people what it is that we're doing now. So I'm just going to make sure that everyone understands what I'm saying. Now, don't forget, we are the only people, and I do mean only people, that have ever, I've got to try and find this thing. Where would I find it? Where would I find it? Where would I find it? I'm sure I'll put it out somewhere. How can I put that up there? Oh, I know. I've sussed myself out. Do I need to pull that out? No. Right, anyway, let me have a look. Can I get back to that? I'm not sure. It was. Let's take that out. English constitutional seminars. I may have to do it. The English are mooted. English constitutional. I wanted to try and find it, but I don't think I'll be able to get it up on it. English constitutional seminars. Let's see if I can play it. It might be not on this one. No, so I can't play it because I haven't got it on there. But basically, I would have wanted to add something on there, but I won't be able to do it. Let me have a quick look and see if there's anything else. That's it. I'm going back there. Right, that's it. I am grateful. Don't forget what I believe in, and I shouldn't be slouching because I'll be in agony in the morning. I shouldn't be slouching, but I want to say to everyone that not only do I love this audience and the people that turn up at the seminars with open minds and wonderful people, over the years we've put a lot of work into this. Believe one thing, whatever happens, believe one thing. You need to understand that they seek to destroy England and the common law. And by doing so, they rip out the heart of the United States of America. We need to understand what they're doing. I'm hoping this tonight's show is explained in more detail to people exactly what they're doing. But remember what I believe. The Constitution is the solution. And what we've got to do is keep pushing it forward. So I'm going to say good night and God bless.